Hey, what's going on? So I have some things I want to talk about. Basically just my experience at my first FL2K. So I want to talk about my weekend in FL2K and just the whole thing. There's actually some cool things that happened during my time there, and I want to talk about that and what it means for me and the channel and potential future projects, especially with the Fiero. Man, I tell you what, nothing rekindles that fire more than going and seeing Karz race. Oh my God, just makes me wanna just But no, seriously, I mean, it really does give you the itch to go fast when you watch those cars do what they do, and those drivers and those teams. It's really incredible the amount of work they put in to race these cars the way they do. And it's just, man, it just really gets me going. It really does. And it just excites me so much to know that that's where I'm working to be. You know, that eventually want to be racing on that track in those events. You know, maybe I probably won't have the same team of people they do, knowing my luck, but that's not going to stop me from trying. I am so excited from that whole weekend, and just to keep pushing for my goal. Lots of cool things to go over. First of all, the race itself was, oh my God, some awesome cars, some of the coolest cars I've ever seen. One team had like freaking, I don't even know, multiple Lamborghinis, 2 Lamborghini STOs, Huracan STOs, twin turbo. I mean, the one was, oh, I don't even know how much power. 4 digits, easy. I mean, it was definitely somewhere over 1,000 horsepower. No sweat. Beautiful cars. Easily, just between the 2 STOs was $1 million worth of cars. And not including the work put into them. It was incredible that people who have that amount of resources to do that with those cars. What machines, really. Then you go to the home-built race cars. They were there. It was always good. I love watching them. Street cars were there. Freaking, they had a whole class for the newer BMWs and the Supras that run that BMW, the B58 straight 6, turbo straight 6. And wow, I actually am pretty freaking impressed with how fast those cars are. I mean, it's incredible that pretty much a full weight 4-door BMW sedan with, I don't even know what goes into those engines. I'm sure probably a lot of boost with the tune, but still, they're 9-second cars. It's incredible. And the Supras are incredible how fast they are. You know, that car's gotten a lot of heat for being basically a BMW built Toyota, but it's got so much potential. BMW has not always had the greatest reputation for building reliable engines, but they've always seemed to build straight 6s really well. And the B58, oh my God, is a freaking monster. So it's really awesome to see those cars run. But then of course you got all of the freaking big boy cars. In that league, you got people like Cletus McFarlane, who surprisingly won both his classes. By the way, that car, his El Camino, is wow. When I first saw that car, it was last year in Maryland at World Cup at Maryland International Raceway, and that car fought them the whole weekend. They had a lot of problems and it barely made it down the track. I never got to see it really run. Of course, that's when I did meet Cletus Garrett and experience that whole thing. This time around, I actually got to see that car. Obviously, it was the fastest car there, and it was cool to watch it. I mean, it was cooking. I wasn't there the whole evening, but I saw a few of the passes that he did, and there were some of the slower passes, and you could see that car was making steam. It's cool to see they finally got that car dialed in the way it is, seeing all those guys work really hard on that car. So of course there's that. A few other big time cars were there. I mean, someone set a record for a stick shift car. It was a Camaro, a 4th gen Camaro, and I don't know what was in it, but you know, H pattern stick shift running 6s is incredible. I mean, these were some amazing cars, and it was so cool to watch. Some interesting cars, which I'm going to go over later in the video, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I actually cannot wait for next year. Of course, hopefully a hurricane doesn't mess things up next year and it'll be back at where it was supposed to be at Bradenton Motorsports Raceway. I want to experience, although I've never been to Gainesville either, and technically Gainesville is a lot closer to me, like within an hour. So if I ever went racing, likely it would be at Gainesville anyway, at least where I'm at now in Florida. But I wanted to experience Bradenton because that's kind of like the new big, you know, all the YouTubers go in there. That's where they're doing their business. So of course, that's kind of where I would want to go, you know, to do my stuff. But either way, I still got to enjoy some awesome racing, and that's all that counts. So the racing aside, all that aside, while I was there, I got to do a few cool things. Events like that, they have all the vendors, they show up with parts you can buy and stuff, you know, of course, and they're also there to support the racers if they need anything. And walking through all the vendors, I ended up kind of caught up talking to this one, mainly because I was walking around and I saw this engine block sitting on a table. And I'm like, wow, that is really small. I mean, it literally was like this long, this wide, I mean, that tall, maybe, that wide. It was tiny. It was this little thing just sitting on the edge of the table. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's some V6. And so I was trying to figure it out. And of course, one of the guys came over like, hey, you got any questions? And I'm like, yeah. What is this? What does this go to? He's like, it's a Honda. It's a Honda J Series V6. I'm like, oh. I'm like, that's what it is. He's like, yes. I didn't realize how small these were. He's like, yeah, they are tiny. And, you know, one thing led to another. And then I'm just talking to this guy about what I want to do. I'm showing him the Fiero, talking about the Fiero. And he really let me know some interesting information about these Honda V6s. So, of course, I told him that I want to get into racing. I got this Fiero. It's got huge limitations, mainly due to the transmission. So I said, you know, I'm gonna do what I can with the 3800, you know, see how far I can get on these 4-speed transmissions that I have, but eventually I'm probably going to look to switching to a different powertrain combo, something that I know is going to handle power and get this car to, you know, the next level. He was telling me how great the Honda J Series are and how big they're getting with racers and swaps, and, you know, in an application like the Fiero, he said actually it would be a really good combination because, you know, the nice thing about the Fiero is it basically takes a front-wheel drive setup and just puts it in the rear wheels. So any front-wheel drive setup can be used in the Fiero without making really any crazy accommodations or modifications, mounts and all that other stuff. So he was showing me all the different parts that they have to offer, cylinder heads, the capabilities of the parts they have, and, you know, the capabilities of stock Honda parts. And, you know, I didn't realize, like, I knew the Honda J V6s were pretty stout, just like most of Honda engines, especially the 4 cylinders and whatnot. I knew they were pretty stout and they had some following, but I didn't realize they were kind of neglected as much as they have been and kind of overshadowed by the 4 cylinders. There was other interesting things I didn't know about those engines, which they showed me. You know, I find it weird that, you know, on this car that the EcoBoost has a integrated exhaust manifold, you know, which is good for the application this is, but I guess for big power, you think there's limitations. Well, I thought this was a relatively new thing. No, Honda's been doing that since the early 2000s with those V6s. I didn't know that. So I thought that was interesting to learn that. And he was showing me all the different things, and he was telling me that mostly stock cars can make a lot of power NA with basically a stock block, stock rotating assembly, and just their cylinder heads, which the ones he was showing me, he said if you were to go with these, which is the monoport exhaust, had, I think they were ported better valves. Were they stock valves or better valves? I think maybe they were, this particular one was stock valves, but a better camshaft profile, something like that. I mean, the combinations parts were, you know, pretty extensive, but I think this particular combo, he said if you were to put this on a, otherwise, I'm pretty sure he said a J35, which would be a 3.5 liter. Could be a 3.7, but I think it's a 3.5. But otherwise, these cylinder heads, which were $1,400, fully dressed, ready to go onto an otherwise stock Honda bottom end would net you over 300 wheel horsepower, all motor. They have this guy, and I actually saw this car race, which this is kind of that unique car I was alluding to in the beginning of the video. It's a Honda Insight. I'm gonna see if I can find some videos of this thing. I'm gonna sneak them in right here. So yeah, if you see that, apparently all this car has is a very simple build. I think they said, has pretty much a fully built head, that stock pistons, stock rods, stock crank, some other supporting mods. It's over 300 wheel horsepower on that setup, because they're ringing it out so far. It's like 320, you said, 330 wheel horsepower on that setup. The power adder is nitrous, and with nitrous, it's like almost 500. You know, it's in the 400 wheel range, and he said it's a super reliable combo, and it gets this Insight, which apparently only weighs 1,800 pounds, you know, down a quarter mile in a 9-second range. So, you know, kind of putting all that together, long story short, it was kind of selling me on the idea that once I max out or get tired of the old Fiero parts, the old Pontiac parts in the Fiero, that I very well could be swapping in Honda J Series V6 into the Fiero, which would be a very interesting swap. I'm not a particularly big fan of mismatched engine swaps, but you know, when you're looking at the full picture, it's kind of hard to beat that powertrain setup. And you also got to think that a lot of the transmissions, if I want to keep that a stick shift car, or at least a manual transmission, there are not many transmissions that can bolt up to 3800 that can handle the abuse and handle the power that I would want to make to get that car into a single digit number range reliably. You know, I'd be building transmissions left and right, just making a few passes here and there, and that's not what I want. I want a car that has the potential, and I just got to tweak it to get it there. I don't want to keep breaking parts to get it there, because Hondas and front wheel drive setups are very popular in racing nowadays. So of course there's a lot of different options for high horsepower front wheel drive transmissions, and most of them are manual. A lot of times what people are doing is they're doing straight cut gears and they're dog box setups. So I'm not sure if I would do that or keep it a H pattern setup. I guess it depends which way I go. I'd probably start with an H pattern and maybe upgrade down the road to a dog box setup with straight cut gears, because I kind of still want to keep the Fiero as streetable as possible, so it is pretty much a street legal race car. You know, I don't want to make it a full-blown race car. A lot to think about, but I'm like, man, just imagine, you know, building some of these V6s and putting it in the car. And it was actually the block that I originally looked at, it caught my eye on that table. You know, this is a fully machined block, so a lot of these blocks that they have, of course, the factory ones are open deck. So they fill them in and drill water jackets down through in the cylinder, you know, down through past the cylinders. So there's some cooling, but obviously you get a lot of that strength back. They do a few other things, and he said that setup there, just the block, was $2,800. Now, before you think that's a lot of money, I am almost positive he said the block is able to handle 1,800 horsepower. So when you think about cost per horsepower, $2,800 for a block, probably another $2,800 in your rotating assembly, and you know, you're at a little over $5,000 there, and you would need their built heads, which was $1,800, I think, for like the heads that flow the amount that you would need to make that power. I mean, so, you know, you're probably around $6 grand all in for a fully built motor that's 1,800 horsepower capable. You look at it that way, and it's a no-brainer. I don't think there's any transmission really on the market that's factory base that can handle that power. So you would have to go to a fully built race transmission. It would probably cost just as much as the engine itself, but I can't even imagine anything. 1,000 horsepower in the Fiero would be fast. It's a 2,600 pound car, roughly. I don't know exactly what it weighs. The guy I bought it from who raced it, I guess, did weigh it. So it's somewhere around 2,600 pounds as it sits now. Of course, the Honda setup is going to be lighter than the Iron 3800 and all that. So all aluminum, that will save weight in the back, you know. So it's still probably all said and done, say 2,600 pounds, and 2,600 pounds with 1,000 horsepower, easy 8 seconds, no problem, as long as traction isn't an issue. So definitely there's growing room with that platform, that engine combo. So I'm really excited to think about that. You know, it's so weird to think about putting that in a Pontiac Fiero, but then again, just seeing a Fiero on a drag strip in the first place is weird. So it'd be kind of cool to be, you know, someone doing this with that car and that engine combo, because both of them are not really receiving that much attention. The J series Hondas are just now starting to kind of get a little bit of traction going, but they're still completely overshadowed by the 4-cylinders. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. You know, that's kind of what I was really excited about in the whole event. Aside from that, I didn't really do too much. Got some pictures here. I ended up actually speaking to Kyle from the Boosted Boys for a few minutes, which was kind of a funny story. Kind of caught him off guard a little bit, perhaps, because I'm sure most of the people who go up to him are coming to him for, you know, as fans. They want pictures, they want autographs, they want, you know, and I get it. And that actually happened while I was talking to him. Dude was tired. They put in a lot of work over the weekend too. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to get all his cars down the track in one piece. So he was super tired, but I ended up talking to him for a minute. And the reason why I caught him off guard was I kind of asked him, I said, hey, do you have anyone ever come up to you and talk to you more like a friend, even though you don't know him, rather than a fan? He's like, occasionally. Like, he was a little caught off guard by that question. So I just kind of, you know, talked to him a minute, and I was just telling him, you know, what I wanted to do and what I was trying to do. And, you know, I think he was doing his best to entertain me, talk to the guys that wanted to actually get a picture with him, and he was still packing up his stuff. You know, they were heading out for the day. It was kind of interesting. He was a cool guy. You know, of course, they're all laid back dudes. It was just cool to kind of talk to him a minute, to kind of see how he feels about things. You know, I was asking him, does all this get tiring to you? You know, the fans and all that. And, you know, he told me, he just looks at me like dead and like, I know it looks like I don't care right now because I'm really tired, but I love all of this. And I'm like, all right, like, that's just, I just love his passion that he has for it. He's a, you know, he loves racing. He loves doing what he's doing, even if it's killing him physically. And I'm like, that's what I wanted to hear. That's that reinforcement. You know, obviously he's a big channel too. They've been around a while. They've done big things. So, you know, just getting that reinforcement to keep pushing and doing what I want to do was super big for me. I was kind of nonchalantly trying to, you know, throw out there like, hey man, you know, let's kick it and have some beers, you know. Like, I don't know if he was picking up on that and kind of just pushing it off, or he was just so tired he didn't quite catch on. But Kyle, I'm gonna send you messages on Insta and stuff. We're gonna have a beer, buddy. So I know a lot of times probably bigger YouTubers, they look at someone like me and they're probably like, the only reason I would want to be around them benefit my following, which in my case, no, that's not what it would be. I want to surround myself with the people doing what I want to do. Obviously, it goes with that saying, you know, you want to be successful, you surround yourself with successful people. So we'll go ahead and we'll revisit that whole thing another day. Of course, you know, eventually I want to be on the same track with these guys. If I can get myself into their realm, their world, kind of position myself into this world of YouTubers that, you know, are actively racing here in Florida, that'd be great. I want to be able to network with these guys. I want to be able to communicate with these guys. I want to be able to keep up with the local racing and get myself involved with this group, because it's what I want to do, and eventually it's where I will be. So that's the big thing, the reason why I kind of want to talk to him. Of course, I can never really get to anyone over at the Kreated crew because they are always bombarded by fans, all of them. but definitely everyone wants to see Garrett specifically. But they're, you know, they're always got the hugest following, and it's hard to really kind of get anyone to decide because they are busy. They're there doing something, so it's not like they can really spend all their time having someone like me talk their ear off. But I, you know, still appreciate that Kyle at least set a couple minutes aside for me, kind of just talk to me, and you know, it made me feel good, made me really want to keep pushing to do what I want to do. And that was basically the cherry on top for the day. So of course I got to see great racing, talk about future potential racing mods for the Fiero, and got to speak to another really cool YouTuber, and to basically keep pushing myself to do what I want to do. So yeah, it was definitely an awesome weekend. I really enjoyed it. But all in all, I think that's going to wrap it up here for this video. So if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with everyone you know. If you want to see more content like this and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and keep a lookout for the next true car enthusiast video.